3 months into the future, Vegas, high stakes poker, final table. Gomer thinks internally, well, what's he got? Response comes back, pair of aces. Gomer glances down at his kings and twos, 2 pair. Looks at the dealer and says, all in. Hey, it's the Chief Bonding with Board Games and RPGs, and we are back to the Neuralink RPG Session 1. So with Gomer Lang, if you don't know how he got his name, it was done randomly. So Gomer Lang is the tech that works on the surgical robots that will actually implant the Neuralink. Now, this is in the future. This is not current, so we're on like a smaller little tech bot. He was able to get a couple of those to his house. He then inputted it himself. He's got the Neuralink loaded in. He caught a bit of an infection. He's been just back to work. We are going to pick up at day 2. He's a loner. His whole desire is to be better, which is why he has secretly put this Neuralink into his brain. He wants to improve himself, and I'm imagining government approval wasn't going fast enough. He is not a quadriplegic or anything. It wouldn't have been authorized for him. So he did it anyway, secretly. So as we come into work, and I'm imagining in the future there's different Neuralink places, so we're not at the real Neuralink. This is all in the future, all fiction. He's coming in. We know he's shaved his head. He's wearing a stocking cap to kind of cover the surgical scar stitches, but the Neuralink is about the size of a quarter and will sit underneath the skin. So he's coming into work. His first day back, he did kind of like remotely log in and run some basic calibration. He was able to get some bits per second on the activity. It wasn't nearly what he wanted it to be, and he's still feeling the effects of the sickness. One of his whole ideas of himself is that he's never better, and he's wanting to achieve that in whatever way possible. So we're using Maze Rats, a really slimmed down role-playing system that I've brought into this by Ben Milton. It's only 3 stats. We'll get into strength, dex, and will later. The Neuralink itself will eventually almost be, well, it will be its own intelligence tier with different things and abilities. But right now he doesn't have those. Hopefully he'll get those almost superhero type powers later, if he survives. So as we come in, there's zero problem with him getting through security. He's got a card, he was out sick. I want to know though, does he have any interaction with employees just as he's crossing? I'm using the Mythic system, the emulator, just to see if anything happens. I'm thinking there's gotta be a lot of people coming and going. Again, I think he's kind of a heads down. His self-esteem isn't that good. So I'm going to go with his interaction to be unlikely, but it doesn't mean there isn't a very bubbly personality of an employee that might say hi to him. So 35 or less, is there any interaction with employees as he comes in? 69, none. So 0 interaction. Gomer Lang has his head down and just moving to what I picture as his lab. His lab is where the surgical robots are fixed, tweaked, probably built to a certain extent. This is the same way he was able to get some of these to his house. I believe he puts in crazy hours. A lot of his life is right here at work. And he'll even bring his work home, which again is how he got those machines to his house. So as he moves into his office or workspace, I believe he's got to hit his targets for the day. I think he gets down, he gets to the grindstone. His hope, his plan is that he will work past normal hours, and that is when he may find the possible time to log back in and do some more work on Neuralink that's there. But before we get that, he was off for 2 weeks sick. I believe there's got to be some interaction with the supervisors, just kind of coming in and checking on him. I want to make sure that happens, but I believe it's a near sure thing. 90%. So it's not a guarantee, but we'll see. 87. Wow, just barely in. Boss, male or female? Male will be odd. Even, 6. So we've got a female boss. Let me keep my notes going here. Go to a random name generator. Page 2, and random is Bernadine. Okay, Bernadine. Let's keep it simple. Bernadine Smith? Bernadine Smith, 50-50. 24, so there we go. Bernadine Smith. With the fate chart system, you're always saying if it's 50-50, 50 or less would be a yes. You can get extreme yeses, extreme no's, but Bernadine Smith is our boss. Now, for conversation, I think she comes into my workspace. I think right off the bat, being a loner and not feeling well, my character simply, without looking up from some kind of equipment he's working on, I think he's buried inside some equipment. He simply hears the door, doesn't even look up to see who it is, and simply says, working, dismissively, working. So first things to check out here, we're going to go to the UNE, and we're going to take a look on the conversation mood. This could be anything from friendly to hated. So we're going to roll for 6-sided dice. And let me get 1 here is all I need. It's a 3. So 1, 2, 3 is neutral. And then we're going percentile on the line here, and 98. Higher is better here. So 98 coming across all the way over is neutral but forthcoming. Okay. We can go with bearing as well. Let me get neutral but forthcoming. So neutral but forthcoming kind of encapsulates all of Bernadine's personality or interactions that she, at least at this moment in time, is going to have with Gomer. But what is her bearing today? So we'll go percentile, 98. Okay, we've got 98 and, 4. All right, 98 and 4 is scheming. Okay, and under the scheming in particular is some kind of plot. Well, that doesn't sound very good. So scheming and plot is her bearing. Okay, so neutral but forthcoming. So she's going to be very direct and almost like she doesn't care, just neutral, but it's going to be scheming and plot. What is her focus? So I can go layers deep on this chart, and I'm going to do that. So her focus is 55. 55 is flaws. Ooh, okay. Focus, flaws. So scheming, plot, focusing on Gomer's flaws. Now we do have the motivation verb and noun. I'm going to go ahead and go with those as well. I think we could work off of this knowing that he's been out sick, that he's a little bit of a loner. He works late. He doesn't like being around folks. But 81 is going to tell me under this that it's, all right, manage. Well, that fits right in line. But manage what? What are we managing here? And then we'll put it all together. 80. 80 under the motivation noun. Patience. Well, that makes perfect sense, and I've got it. All right, so Bernadine comes in, and of course, as she comes to the door, Gomer hears it and just says, working. That bothers me. And Bernadine being neutral and forthcoming, however, scheming in a plot. So she's working on something that is his flaws and her lack of patience. So first off, right off the way, she's like, Gomer, pull your head out of the machine. We need to talk. And I think Gomer right off the bat is just like, and noisily pulls whatever equipment, slides it out of the way, and comes over to a stool at like a workbench, almost like where I'm sitting now. But he just slides over. He doesn't stand up. He slides over and says, it's got to be something that would be a little off-putting. Oh, Bernadine, I'm already behind. You're just slowing down the process. And she says, well, that's exactly why I'm here. You were gone for 2 weeks. I have no idea where you're at with multiple bits of your project in terms of the surgical bots, and you haven't given me any of the updates that I've emailed or requested. Gomer says, I know the work I have to get done. Emailing you back on the work I'm doing would just slow down the work that I'm having to get done. Wow. Okay. So on focus flaws, no, let's go to scheming plot. I'm imagining a scheming plot that would deal with the lack of focus and the flaws is Bernadine says, well, Gomer, we've hired a new employee that does exactly what you do. But part of your job is now going to be training him. Okay, clearly. I think Gomer is not stupid. I would imagine Bernadine's deal is, at some point, let's get someone else in that's working in the surgical bot lab. I'm sure when Gomer was gone for 2 weeks sick, maybe there was even the idea of, hey, let's get somebody else employed in that area. Clearly with Gomer gone, it logged, Gomer gone? That's an interesting sentence. But with him gone, it log jammed some of the work that probably needed to get done. I think Gomer's really good at what he does, but he's really difficult to deal with all at the same time. So the scheming plot is, here's a new employee. Gomer quickly says, I don't train. I can't teach someone what I do. I think Gomer's also a little pale, still a little sick, and you can almost hear the exhaustion in his voice. Not to mention, if he's got someone working in the lab with him, it's even more difficult for him to pull off what he's doing with the surgical bots. That's a good problem, at least for the show. Okay. Well, I think Bernadine, the manager she is, not the technician that Gomer is, says he starts tomorrow. Your job is to bring him up to speed. Well, hold on. Is it a him? 50-50. Is it a him? Yes, would be 50 or less. 79. It's a her. Okay. So it's not a him. We're bringing on a new female tech. Okay. We'll get her name later. That'll be in a future show because she's not showing up today. But I think Bernadine proudly states it'll be your job to get her up to speed. I don't think Gomer would necessarily, I don't think Gomer wants a her or a him. So I don't think he cares. I don't even think he takes the bait that Bernadine thought he would at the her. He simply reiterates, if I have to train someone, it will slow the work down to a crawl. Have someone else do it. Bernadine says, nope, tomorrow, and leaves. God. All right, well, there's a future problem. All right, or who knows, maybe a compatriot. Maybe this could help Gomer not be lonely, or his future replacement. This definitely puts some pressure on him, however. Although I think his plan is still to work late, in which case I think he's thinking he can always have the trainee head on home and probably still get some of the things he needs to get done after hours. Heck, I think he's pragmatic and says, hey, mentally it'll give him more reasons to stay late. Work was slowed down by training. I have to work late. Perfect. All right, so he's got a workaround. Bernadine Smith has left. I believe the day goes by. There's just constant work. Gomer is literally behind schedule by the 2 weeks. So he is getting his work done. He's skilled at that work. but he's isolated and he likes it that way. As 5 o'clock hits and passes, I think Gomer, where would he eat? His lab is not like surgically sterile. I think he's going to have food that he's brought with him that he eats right in his lab. Don't go out. This is his safe place. Sure, that's it. So as everyone's leaving, he simply has a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And probably like a Capri Sun. Surely those are still around. They looked futuristic in the 80s. So I think he's drinking his Capri Sun, his peanut butter and jelly, and probably some peanuts in a bag. Yeah, that's how I picture. Now, his point is once everybody's sufficiently gone, he is going to now, they're gone, he's going to move to the calibration lab. He's been there, he knows it. That's where he checked in on day 1. This is day 2, where he was able to read, okay, the threads with the Neuralink that are loaded in are working, but they weren't working great. He wants to return there, and we are again into the slight future. I'm picturing like 3 to 4 years, who knows, into the future. So as he goes to the lab, where he will strap on what looks like an Oculus gaming system, and he's ready for the next level of his Neuralink process. He's calibrated the day before, and it's working, but not optimally. Today, he's going to download Grok 4. That's right, we're only on Grok 2, but in the future, it's Grok 4 AI, which is set to load directly onto his Neuralink. He's going to load that, and then that AI is part of an app suite that will help him continue to fine-tune and work on his personal like mouse keyboard interface with the Neuralink. So does he have any problems loading the app? I think it's probably not a difficult process at all. I think it's simply putting the Oculus on, loading it up, linking via, I'm imagining that his Neuralink is a combination of Bluetooth, Wi-Fi 10 future, and a UWB, an ultra-wideband connection. So I think, does he have any problems? I think it's no way. So 15 or less would be a yes, he has some problems. 55, doubles. The doubles are at a cast factor of 5. Again, Mythic Game Master emulator. That means we're going to have a random event. Let me just note this off to the side. The random event can have to do something with us loading this Grok AI, or it could be something totally unrelated. But what we've been told is it is loaded. So I believe it's loading in and processing up. While that's happening, let's see what this random event could be. So we're going to roll on the random event or the event focus table. We get a 4. 4 is a remote event. All right, let me just ask, I've got a slightly different meaning table. So I'm going to roll on both for just action 1, action 2, and see what this random event with the remote event is. So 78 is going to be repulse. Okay, and 19, defense. All right, well that seems clear to me. As the AI Grok 4 is loading, he's got a repulse defense. I think at some point as this AI is loading onto the interface that he's used to, that it is somehow he is having like a migraine or it's giving him some difficulties. This makes sense because I'm imagining when you go through the normal process, number 1, you have multiple tiered experts assisting as you go. He is trying to pull all this off on his own. He knows the systems, he knows the locations, he's able to do the processes, but he's not bringing any of the expertise along the way. Hence, he got the infection when he even did the surgery. No problem with the surgery bot, but he didn't do it in the best environment. Now he's Oculus loaded in, he's remote Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, UWB linked, and as he's loading this program, whatever the interaction or the bits per second that he's also picking up from his neurons firing in the threads, I think it's causing him to suffer some like angst or even some kind of defensive, mental effects. I think it's got to be, even though I had remote event, maybe the remote event is that it's going on inside his brain, which he's never experienced ever. That to me makes sense. No need to worry about things that are going on outside the building or in the world in general. The remote event is as he was loading Grok 4, it was overloading his mental processes, especially in his weakened state. So at this moment, there's no calibrating, there's no communicating with Grok 4. I think he's having some kind of issue on the mental side. I think he pulls off that Oculus, has a bit of a piercing headache. And because we are doing these as like dramatic scene setups, I had written in my notes that there's an option that he is caught in this lab. Now for me, that brought two options forward that we're going to roll for randomly. I think he could be caught in the lab by his boss. Maybe Bernadine is still there, prepping for the new employee that's coming in tomorrow. Or on a totally different level, a janitorial member who is, his normal hours are working late. So maybe he sees him in there. Now with this, I feel like it's going to be weighted toward janitorial staff. I don't know why. These are his normal hours, but we've got to find out, is it janitorial staff? I think it's probably a near sure thing, 90%. So if I get a 90 or less, it's going to be janitorial staff, 38. Okay. If not, I was going to go with it was the boss coming in.